The first thing my husband said wasn't, "Are you okay?" It wasn't, "Let's talk." It wasn't even my name. He stood in our front hallway with one hand on the doorknob and looked at me like I was a stranger. "You need to leave." I laughed because I honestly thought he was joking. Then I noticed the 2 packed suitcases sitting beside the door. My suitcase. And my daughter's little pink one. My smile disappeared. "Ethan, what is this?" He folded his arms across his chest. "My mother can't stay here if you're going to keep treating her like this." I stared at him, unable to breathe. "So, your solution is to throw your wife and daughter out?" "I'm asking you to leave until you can calm down." His words hit harder than a slap. "Calm down," I whispered. "Your mother accused me of stealing her jewelry. You embarrassed her." "I embarrassed her?" My voice cracked. She hid her own bracelet, Ethan. "The police found it in her bedroom drawer." He looked away. "That isn't the point." "No." I picked up my purse. "The point is you don't believe me." Silence. That silence answered every question I had been asking myself for the last 6 years. I grabbed my daughter Lily's backpack. She stood quietly beside the stairs, hugging her stuffed rabbit. "Mom, are we going somewhere?" I forced a smile. "Just for a little while, sweetheart." As I walked past Ethan, I stopped. "If I walk out this door, I don't know if I can come back." He didn't stop me. He didn't apologize. He simply stepped aside. I walked out carrying my daughter's hand and what little dignity I had left. I had no idea that less than 4 hours later, police officers would be standing at that same front door. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old. Until that afternoon, I believed I had a normal marriage. Not perfect, but worth fighting for. Ethan and I met in Dallas 12 years earlier. He was funny, patient, the kind of man who remembered little things. The way I liked my coffee, the songs that made me cry, the dreams I whispered only after midnight. We married 3 years later. When Lily was born, I thought our family was complete. Then Ethan's father died. Everything changed after that. Margaret, my mother-in-law, moved into our lives one opinion at a time. At first, it was harmless. "You should feed Lily this instead. You shouldn't work full-time. Ethan likes his shirts ironed differently." Then it became criticism, then control, then manipulation. If Ethan and I disagreed, Margaret somehow became the victim. Every single time, I kept telling myself things would improve. Families go through difficult seasons, right? I was wrong. That afternoon, Lily and I checked into a small hotel near downtown Dallas. She sat cross-legged on the bed coloring while I stared out the window. My phone buzzed. It was my best friend, Rachel. "Emily." Her voice immediately softened. "What happened?" I hadn't called her. "How did you know?" "Ethan's cousin posted about a family emergency online." I closed my eyes. Of course. Margaret loved making everything public. I finally broke. For 20 minutes, I cried harder than I had in years. Rachel listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question. "Did Ethan ask for your side?" "No." "Did he ask Lily how she felt?" "No." "Then stop blaming yourself." Simple words. Impossible advice. Around 6 that evening, someone knocked on my hotel door. I looked through the peephole. A uniformed police officer stood outside. My stomach dropped. I opened the door. "Mrs. Carter?" "Yes." "I'm Officer Daniel Brooks. I'm sorry to bother you. We just need to ask a few questions." My heart started racing. "About what?" He glanced at his notebook. "There was an incident reported at your residence this afternoon." I felt cold. "What kind of incident? Did you leave your home around 2 o'clock today?" "Yes." "With your daughter?" "Yes." He nodded. "Can anyone verify where you've been since then?" I stared at him. "Why?" He hesitated. "Because someone entered your home after you left." Every muscle in my body tightened. "What?" The back door was forced open. My voice barely worked. Is Ethan okay? Physically, yes. But we need to determine who had access to the property. I looked at him in disbelief. You think I did this? I'm not accusing anyone. I'm collecting information. Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Ethan. I answered immediately. What happened? His breathing was uneven. Emily, the police are here. I know. They came to the hotel. There was a long pause. Then he whispered something that made my blood run cold. My father's safe. It's gone. I frowned. What safe? Another silence. The one nobody was supposed to know about. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. Ethan, what's safe? He didn't answer. Instead, I heard another voice in the background. An officer. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody leaves the house until we've finished processing the scene. Then the call disconnected. I slowly lowered the phone. A hidden safe? In our house? How could there be something inside my own home that I had never known existed? And why did Ethan sound terrified? Deep down, I knew this burglary wasn't random. Someone hadn't come looking for jewelry or cash. They had come for something much more valuable. And somehow, it had everything to do with the family that had just thrown me out. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Ethan's voice. My father's safe. It's gone. The words didn't make sense. We'd lived in that house for almost 7 years. I knew every room, every closet, every squeaky floorboard. How could there be a hidden safe I had never seen? And why had Ethan kept it from me? At 7 the next morning, my phone rang. It was Detective Sarah Morales. Mrs. Carter? Yes. I'd like to meet with you. Am I a suspect? No. But I think you may be an important witness. Rachel insisted on coming with me. The detective met us at the police station. She wasn't what I expected. No intimidation. No accusations. Just a thick case file sitting on the table. Mrs. Carter, she began, I'd like you to tell me exactly what happened before you left your house yesterday. So I did. I told her about Margaret accusing me of stealing a diamond bracelet. About Ethan believing his mother without asking for my side. About the packed suitcases. About Lily crying as we drove away. The detective listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked something unexpected. Did your husband mention his father's estate recently? No. Any inheritance? No. She exchanged a glance with her partner. Then she opened the file. There wasn't just a burglary. I frowned. What do you mean? The safe had already been opened before someone broke into the house. A chill ran through me. So, nothing was stolen? Oh, something was stolen. She slid a photograph across the table. It showed a steel wall safe hidden behind a framed painting. Inside, it was empty. There should have been documents inside. What kind of documents? We're still trying to determine that. Back at the hotel, I couldn't stop thinking. Why would someone break into our house only hours after I left? Unless they already knew exactly what they were looking for. That evening, Ethan finally called. His voice sounded exhausted. Can we talk? I don't think that's a good idea. Please. For Lily, I agreed to meet him at a small park. Lily ran toward him the moment she saw him. He hugged her tightly. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I miss you, Daddy. I turned away. Some apologies come too late. After Lily wandered toward the playground with Rachel, Ethan looked at me. I made a mistake. You think I shouldn't have asked you to leave? No. You shouldn't have. He rubbed both hands across his face. My mom. I stopped him. No. Don't blame your mother. You made the decision. He looked down. You're right. For a moment, I saw the man I married, not the son desperate to please his mother. I need to tell you something. I crossed my arms. I'm listening. My dad didn't trust everyone. I gathered that before he died. He left instructions. What instructions? There were legal documents hidden in that safe. What kind of legal documents? He hesitated. My father believed someone in the family would eventually try to change his wishes. I stared at him. Are you saying someone forged his will? I don't know. But Dad was afraid it would happen. Before I could respond, Ethan's phone rang. His face immediately changed. It can't be. What? It's Ryan, his older brother. Ethan answered. What happened? I couldn't hear Ryan's words, only Ethan's reactions. What do you mean Mom knew? Silence. She said what? Another silence. Then Ethan slowly lowered the phone. His face had gone completely pale. What is it? He looked straight at me. My brother says. My mother knew about the safe. The next morning, Detective Morales called again. Mrs. Carter, we've recovered security camera footage from your neighborhood. Did you find the burglar? We found something much more interesting. An hour later, I was sitting in the station again. The detective played the video. My house appeared on the screen. The timestamp read 4:17 p.m. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out. Even from the grainy footage, I recognized her immediately. Margaret. She unlocked the front door using her own key. What? My voice disappeared. The detective paused the video. Your husband told us she wasn't there yesterday afternoon. I nodded slowly. He believed she went shopping. The detective pressed play again. Margaret stayed inside for nearly 25 minutes. When she came back out, she wasn't empty-handed. She carried a large manila envelope tucked under her coat. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The detective looked at me carefully. Mrs. Carter, did you know about that envelope?
No.
I've never seen it. She nodded. Neither has your husband. That evening, Ethan came to the hotel. This time, he wasn't angry. He looked frightened. My brother confronted Mom, and she denied everything. Of course she did. But then, he handed me a photocopy. It was an old handwritten letter, signed by Charles Carter, his father. I read the first paragraph. If anything happens to me, do not allow Margaret to handle my estate alone. I looked up. What is this? My father wrote it 2 weeks before he died. Why have I never seen it? Because. Ethan swallowed hard. It disappeared. I slowly looked back at the paper. Then another thought hit me. If Margaret had taken documents from the safe, and this letter had vanished years earlier, how many other secrets had been hidden before either of us could speak? There was another knock at the hotel room door. This time it wasn't the police. It was Ryan. His face was white. We have a bigger problem. What happened? He looked directly at Ethan. Mom's lawyer just filed paperwork. What paperwork? Ryan took a deep breath. She's claiming Dad left everything to her. The room fell silent. Ethan whispered only 2 words. That's impossible. Ryan looked at both of us. Unless. The Betrayal will is the document that disappeared from the safe. For a moment, nobody spoke. Ryan's words hung in the hotel room like smoke. The real will is the document that disappeared from the safe. Ethan slowly sat down on the edge of the bed.
No.
My dad would have never left everything to Mom. Ryan nodded. I know, but her attorney filed the probate amendment this morning. I looked at Ethan. Did you ever actually read your father's will? He hesitated. No. My heart sank. You never read it? He shook his head. Mom handled everything after Dad died. Ryan let out a bitter laugh. I trusted her too. The room suddenly felt much smaller. For years, Margaret hadn't just controlled family dinners. She'd controlled the family's entire future. The next afternoon, Detective Morales asked all 3 of us to come to the station. She greeted us with a serious expression. We've confirmed the surveillance footage. She placed several photographs on the table. Each one showed Margaret entering and leaving the house. Then she slid over another document. We also obtained footage from a nearby bank. Ryan frowned. The bank. The detective nodded. Yesterday evening. The security photo showed Margaret carrying the same manila envelope she'd removed from the house. She was walking into a safe deposit vault. Ethan's face turned white. Oh my God. The detective folded her hands. We now have probable cause to obtain a search warrant. I could barely process what I was hearing. Only 24 hours earlier, I had been the woman thrown out of her own home. Now the investigation had taken a completely different direction. That evening, I picked Lily up from Rachel's house. She climbed into my lap before I even sat down. Mom, yes, sweetheart. Are you and Daddy mad forever? Children always ask the hardest questions. I kissed her forehead. I hope not. But sometimes adults make choices they have to fix. She thought quietly. Can broken things get fixed? I smiled sadly. Some can. And some can't. She nodded as though that answer made perfect sense. Then she whispered something that nearly broke me. I just want everyone to stop yelling.
So did I.
The following morning, Detective Morales called. They found the documents. I stopped breathing. Where? In Margaret's safe deposit box. I closed my eyes. So, it really was her. There were several documents inside. What kind? The original will. A second handwritten letter. And financial records dating back almost 10 years. My stomach tightened. Financial records? Mrs. Carter, they show repeated transfers from your late father-in-law's trust, large amounts, to accounts controlled by Margaret. I sat down. The room spun. Did Ethan know? So far. It appears he didn't. Later that afternoon, Ethan asked to meet me. We met at the same park where we talked before. He looked completely different. His shoulders slumped. His eyes were swollen from lack of sleep. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I should have trusted you. Silence. I chose the easy answer. Still, I said nothing. He looked at the ground. When Mom accused you, I wanted the problem to disappear. So, I made you disappear. Those words hurt because they were true.
He finally looked at me.
I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. You deserved better. For the first time since all this started, I believed he meant it. 2 weeks later, probate court was packed. Margaret sat beside her attorney wearing the same confident expression she'd worn my entire marriage. But today felt different. The original will had been recovered. The judge carefully examined every page. Then the handwriting expert testified. The signatures matched. The dates matched. The ink matched. Margaret's attorney objected repeatedly. Each objection was overruled. Finally, the judge spoke. Based on the evidence presented, the court recognizes this recovered document as the valid last will and testament of Charles Carter. Margaret's smile disappeared. The judge continued. The amended filing submitted by Mrs. Margaret Carter is denied. I glanced toward Ethan. Tears filled his eyes. Not because of the inheritance, because he'd finally seen the truth. Just when everyone thought the hearing was over, Detective Morales entered the courtroom. She quietly handed a folder to the prosecutor. A few moments later, the judge looked down at the documents. Mrs. Carter, you are ordered to remain available pending a criminal investigation regarding suspected fraud, concealment of estate documents, and financial misconduct. The courtroom went silent. Margaret looked toward Ethan. Ethan, tell them. He didn't move. She reached for his arm. I did this for you. He gently stepped away. No, you did it for yourself. It was the first time in years. He had chosen the truth instead of protecting his mother. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Ryan shook my hand. I owe you an apology. You warned us. We didn't listen. I smiled softly. I wasn't trying to win. I just wanted someone to believe me. He nodded. I do now. As Ethan walked toward his car, he stopped beside me. I signed the separation papers. I looked at him. I figured. I also started therapy. I'm glad. I want Lily to grow up with a better father than I've been. That was the first thing he'd said in weeks that gave me hope. Not hope for our marriage. Hope for our daughter. 3 months later, life felt quieter. Lily and I moved into a small townhouse across town. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful. Nobody criticized how I folded towels. Nobody questioned my parenting. Nobody made me feel like a guest in my own home. One Saturday morning, Lily looked around our little kitchen and smiled. This feels like home. I realized something. Home had never been the big house. Home was wherever we felt safe. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Detective Morales. Her voice carried a quiet satisfaction. Mrs. Carter, I thought you'd like to know. Margaret accepted a plea agreement this morning. I looked out the kitchen window as Lily laughed in the backyard. What happens now? The detective smiled. Now, everyone finally lives with the truth. A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be grateful for the day my husband asked me to leave, I would have called them crazy. Back then, it felt like the worst day of my life.
Now,
I know it was the day my life finally began. Margaret's criminal case took several months to resolve. She eventually accepted a plea agreement instead of going to trial. The investigators uncovered years of financial manipulation. She had secretly moved money from Charles Carter's family trust into accounts she controlled. She had hidden the original will. She had removed documents from the safe before reporting anything to the family. And perhaps the most painful truth of all, she had spent years convincing Ethan that everyone else was the problem. The judge sentenced her to probation, ordered full financial restitution, and permanently removed her as executor of Charles's estate. Because she cooperated, avoided violence, and had no previous criminal record, she didn't go to prison. But she lost something she valued far more. Her reputation. The woman who had controlled every family gathering now couldn't control the truth. The probate case ended shortly afterward. Charles's original wishes were finally honored. His estate was divided exactly as he had intended. Ryan received ownership of the family ranch. Ethan inherited his father's woodworking shop and a modest investment account. Several charitable donations Charles had requested were finally made. And Lily. Charles had quietly created a college education trust in her name years before he died. Margaret had never mentioned it. She couldn't touch it. When Ethan told me, we both cried. Even after death, Charles had found a way to protect his granddaughter. The divorce was finalized without a fight. Neither of us wanted Lily growing up in a courtroom battle. We agreed on shared custody, equal parenting, equal responsibility, no games, no revenge. At the final hearing, the judge looked at both of us. I appreciate seeing parents who put their child first. It was the first compliment Ethan and I had received together in a very long time. As we walked out of the courthouse, he stopped beside me. I've spent months trying to understand how I became someone who could ask his own wife to leave. I looked at him quietly. He continued, I thought being a good son meant agreeing with my mother. I never realized I was failing as a husband. There wasn't anything left for me to say. Some lessons only arrive after everything falls apart. Therapy changed Ethan more than I ever expected. Not overnight. There were setbacks. There were difficult conversations. But he stopped making excuses. He learned to recognize manipulation. He apologized without expecting forgiveness. Most importantly, he became present for Lily. Every soccer game, every school concert, every birthday, he showed up. Not because I reminded him, because he finally understood what being a father meant. One afternoon, nearly a year later, Lily came home from school carrying a family tree project. She spread everything across the dining table. Construction paper, markers, old family photos. She looked up at me. Mom, can I still put Daddy on my family tree? I smiled. Of course. We're still a family, she grinned. Just in 2 houses. I laughed. Exactly. Children have a remarkable way of seeing what adults often forget. Families don't always end when marriages do. Sometimes they simply change shape. A few weeks later, Ethan invited Lily and me to the grand reopening of his father's woodworking shop. After inheriting it, he'd decided not to sell it. Instead, he'd restored it. The old building smelled of fresh cedar and sawdust. On one wall hung a framed photograph of Charles. Beneath it was a small wooden plaque. It read, "Build with honesty. Protect your family. Leave things better than you found them." I stood there for a long moment. Those words felt like Charles's final gift. Not just to Ethan, to all of us. As guests began leaving, Ethan walked over holding a small wooden box. I made something. He handed it to me. Inside was a delicate hand-carved picture frame. It held a photograph of Lily smiling between the 2 of us at her last birthday party. On the back, he'd carved 6 simple words. Thank you for choosing the truth. I looked at him. You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to. I spent years believing peace meant avoiding conflict. He smiled sadly. Now I know peace only comes after honesty. Not long afterward, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Margaret. I wasn't sure I even wanted to open it. Eventually, I did. There were no excuses, no accusations, no attempts to manipulate, only a few handwritten lines. Emily, I spent years trying to control everyone because I was terrified of losing the people I loved. Instead, I lost them anyway. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope Lily remembers that I loved her, even when I failed the adults around her. Margaret. I folded the letter carefully. I didn't hate her anymore. Hate is heavy. I'd carried enough weight already. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't erase the damage. It simply meant I refused to let the past keep deciding my future. One warm spring evening, Lily and I sat on our back porch, watching the sunset. She rested her head on my shoulder. Mom, yes. Are we happy now? I looked around our small backyard. The flowers we'd planted together were blooming. The wind chimes gently swayed. For the first time in years, everything felt quiet. Not the uncomfortable silence of pretending everything was fine. The peaceful silence that comes after surviving a storm. I smiled. Yes, I think we are. She squeezed my hand. I'm glad Daddy learned to tell the truth. So am I. She thought for a second. Do you know what I learned? What? That when someone tells you to leave, sometimes they're accidentally showing you the way to a better life. I laughed through tears. Out of all of us, she understood it best. The day Ethan asked me to leave felt like the end of everything. Hours later, the police knocked on his door. At the time, I thought karma had arrived. But looking back, it wasn't karma that changed our lives. It was the truth. The truth uncovered hidden lies. The truth exposed years of manipulation. The truth cost us a marriage. But it also gave my daughter a healthier father, gave Ethan a chance to become a better man, and gave me something I hadn't realized I'd lost long ago. My voice. And once I found it, I never let anyone take it away again.